Hello students, this is Mr. Scholke. I am going to show you in this third video on data analysis using Google Sheets how to analyze probably our most complex data set that we got from this survey. A data set that has quantitative or numerical responses, but they're not limited. Let's take a look at this question. During class time on an average distance learning school day, what percentage of the time do you find yourself being bored or distracted? Enter a number from 0 to 100. Respondents who took this survey were allowed to enter freely any number they wanted that they thought was the approximate percentage of the time they were distracted, which means that we can get any number from 0 to 100. That means there are 101 different options. Someone even put a 0.5 in there, which means that theoretically we could get 201 different options if people are putting 0.5s. And if people put even finer decimals, then we could get infinite options for what people could have said. So doing what we did with our other data sets, where we counted the frequency of responses, that's not going to work because we'd potentially need up to 201 different categories if we had enough respondents to give every possible answer. So what could we do with this data? Well, let's start with the basics. Let's calculate the mean, the median, the minimum, and the maximum values. Let's make this column a little wider so we have room to work with. For the mean, that function is just called average. And let's include our data range. By now you know how to write that. Start with the first cell of your data range, which here is cell A2, then type a colon, and then another A. And by the way, when you're typing these cell references or cell addresses, it is not case sensitive, meaning you can use upper or lower case and it will recognize what you're trying to say. So average A2 to the end of column A, 64.47, very good. Now the median, equals, start a formula, or a function rather, and then type median, start your parentheses, A2 to the end of column A. Median value was 75. So if we put all these numbers in order, then the value right in the middle of the line would be 75. Our minimum value was 0. Maximum value is 100. So somebody said 100% of the time and somebody said never. Okay, that's interesting to know. Now, what could we do to make a chart out of all of this? That's a tough one. Let's select our whole data set. Okay, I've selected all of the values. Now let's insert a chart. If I go to the Insert Chart button, based on this type of data, this program's pretty smart. This application figured out that I want to use what's called a histogram. A histogram creates these ranges of data and calls them buckets and counts how many responses are in each bucket. But look how it calculated these ranges, or these weird decimal ranges. Well, I want to change it so that these buckets are nice whole numbers. The way that we can change the sizes of these buckets is go here to the chart editor on the right. Under histogram, select your bucket size. And let's start with buckets of 5%. That'll give us 20 buckets, but we have 160 pieces of data, so that actually might be functional. Let's see what it looks like. That's actually pretty useful. Kind of shows us how distributed our data is. We could set it to 10 and see how it looks. Well, that's pretty good too. Both are useful. Now, you might notice that there's this weird little group from 100 to 105%. That's because these bins actually count everything under this maximum value. So for instance, in this bucket, it includes 90 all the way up to 99.9999. The next one includes 100.0 up to 105. Now we can tweak that a little bit by changing this outlier percentile, but all that does is change us from 100% to 100%. For our purposes today, that will be fine, because we can tell that there are 4 people who responded with 100%. And there are roughly 23 people who responded between 90 and 100. This gives us a good feel for the range of the data. We can look at it and tell what it's asking. So it automatically labeled it histogram of, and then it inserted what we said in cell A1. We should relabel this. So that tells us something, that a lot of students are feeling bored or distracted during distance learning. Now, could we gather further data to split up how many feel bored and how many feel distracted? Absolutely. But the purpose of this video is to show you how to analyze this kind of data and create a figure called a histogram. So what we did is we have data that has free responses. There could be really infinite different responses, but we know that there are probably about 101 different types of responses, and groups them into these buckets, counts how many are in each bucket, and then creates basically this special kind of column chart called a frequency histogram. Frequency histogram. I had to edit that because I'm struggling to type right now. Frequency histogram. So we practiced using the average function, the median function, the minimum function, the maximum function. We analyzed quantitative data with open, unlimited responses. And we practiced using a new kind of chart called a frequency histogram that honestly, some of you would not have otherwise learned until your college level statistics class. So feel smart, feel proud of yourselves, practice these things, get your data ready for your projects, and let me know if you need any help. And of course, like, subscribe, comment below. Thank you. Bye.